Hey guys, how's it going? We got a little something in the background there. That sound I'm really excited to share is the sound of our ram pump, and it is up and running. We spent some time over the last week building out the system. I had a lot of help from a bunch of my friends. Guys, I super appreciate your help doing all the hard work. And then my brother helped me build in and finish off the ram pump, so thank you. So super excited to get to share that today. So the sound you're hearing behind us is the ram pump working. We're down in a little thicket, a little gully below our cistern and spring assembly. So I have another video I'm going to be uploading ahead of this one, so hopefully you'll watch that. That shows what the water catchment looks like, and I talk about that. And this, I want to show you guys the ram pump itself and just that assembly. So let's take a look at it together real quick. So right down here is the ram pump. You've got your line where the water comes down from the spring and cistern. You've got your valve, and this allows you to service the ram pump itself, so you can shut that off. There's a union valve there, which allows you to take the whole ram pump assembly with that union valve in conjunction, those two, take this off and work on it, or replace parts, or change it up, which we've already had to do. And then this is the heart of the ram pump itself, these two pieces. So this is an inline swing check valve with a spring mechanism, and this one right here is just a simple flapper. I'll show you real quick and kind of see it working. So those two pieces allow us to run the ram pump. All right, so how does this work? So essentially what we have here is a back and forth of pressure caused by the pipe being filled with water going up a distance of hillside. So you need, in order for the ram pump to really work, you need pressure on both sides. So that's called head pressure, and that requires distance, requires lift, and it requires a constant flow volume of water. So what we have in here right now is a 3/4 inch swing check valve and a highly untightened, so it's I loosened up quite a bit, IPS, which is the plastic one, the white one that you saw, inline swing check valve. And between these two things, the head pressure builds, it slams open one and closes shut the other, permits water to go through, and then reverses, and then a little water gets wasted out. And this mechanical action, which is super cool because there's no electricity here, and this is a pump, is a ram pump, pushes the water where we want it to be, which is way up the hillside. So this assembly is replacing a primary pump for our house. Hopefully, we haven't tested it into the house line system, so we'll do that in the next video and show you the whole system up and running and walk through it. So what's the rest of the assembly? Let's take a look. Okay, so this guy right here, that is a cylinder that is filled with air and a partially filled tire tube, inner tube. And what that does is it allows you to build up pressure. Basically, it's a pressurizing chamber. So that's right after the pump assembly itself, which is through here. And then following it down on the lower side, you can see I have a gauge that shows me what the pressure is. So we'll take a quick look and we'll see where we're at right now, and that's going to be typical of what we have. So you can see we're right around 25 or 30 on the pressure right now, and that seems to be holding steady for this pump as assembled. I did attempt this pump with a much larger swing check valve, same size as the plastic one, when the plastic one was tightened down too. The problem was we don't have enough water supply for me to use that 1.5 inch swing check valve. if we had the sufficient amount of water, then that would have, I think that one was up at like 40, 50, or 60 psi, so an incredible amount of pressure from this mechanical system. And then after the pressure gauge here, it just comes around the corner to the union valve, and then it comes to this, comes over to this piece right here. So this valve right here, this manual valve, ball valve, is really important because what it lets me do is it lets me take the starting process when you're priming your pump, and that's very important. You have to prime your pump. So what does that mean? So you've got water coming down from your supply, and the water coming down from the supply is adding pressure on one side, head pressure. But it's not pressurized yet on the other side of the line until it gets filled up with water. So if you open up your valve all the way, you're going to be priming and priming and priming. So how do you prime the ram pump? So essentially what you have to do in order to get it to start clicking like it's doing and continuing that process is you have to take something like a screwdriver and click into that spot where it's clicking right now automatically, repeatedly, and that builds up the pressure within this system. It builds up the pressure into the tank here and around the corner, and then with this valve here shut, and then you slowly open the valve up, this valve right here, slowly open it up, and then water builds up the line up the hillside, and you get your pressure built up that way. So it's an awesome system and fairly simple to build. The parts themselves were like $100, somewhere in that range. I just ordered and assembled myself, hand tightened everything, and running really great. So one of the neat parts about the build is that most of the assembly, and I'll show you again, you can see it's threaded, which means that the individual parts can be taken off and redone. So this is a part that we had to convert to, I thought, because as we mentioned before, there wasn't enough water coming through. So that is the wrong part. So that is another swing check valve, and it just wasn't pressurizing right with two swing check valves. You really do need that spring-loaded valve, swing check valve on the inline, which is this one right here. So a brass swing check valve coming up right here that allows you to have the water waste, and that's part of the pressure exchange. And then on the other side of it, you've got that flip side of it, that piece of plastic IPS. So yeah, definitely very important. So that is the system up and running, and right now it's running up the hillside and should be headed to the cistern at the top of the hill, and it should be full. The whole line up should be full, so we should be seeing it coming into the tank itself. The tank has to fill, which will take some time. Originally, like I said, this had been in 1.5 inch. We might get away with a 1 inch, but the supply of water coming in down the line is not. I mean, it's a 1 inch pipe coming from the spring, and that may mean that the amount of water that this thing will be able to process and keep going is less than 1 inch. So that's why I put the 3/4 on there, which is working fine. If I can find and develop another spring kind of back behind me here, I think there may be an opportunity for a spring up in this space here. There's this big bowl. This whole area is like a bowl on the hillside, a low spot. So you can kind of see right over here, there's a lot of intense growth still going on in the grass in here. And I've noted that there's often a run of water coming down the hill over here as well. And this, up behind me here, you can see where the pipe goes up the hillside. That is where the spring comes from for this right now. So there may be an opportunity for me to add some more water into this assembly. And if we're able to do that, if we're able to add the water into the assembly, then that'll make this little machine, I'll be able to convert it back into a 1.5 inch, and then we'll really push some water up the hill. So a couple pieces I haven't mentioned. So you have to size your swing check valves, and you also need to size your water line according to what you're trying to do. So the amount of water coming down is going to be bottlenecked at some point by some piece. In this case, it's being bottlenecked by the 3/4 that is pumping out there, that's emitting the waste. So the supply line is 1.5, so I can put a lot more water through this system. And the pressurized line is 1 inch, so we are not utilizing that to its full potential, and that's fine for now. I can add in another small line and then go up to the 1.5 inches, and then really just pound the water up the hillside to fill that tank that much faster if I can get the extra supply. So your line coming into the ram pump, where your water is coming from, your creek, your spring, whatever, that needs to be larger, and there is a ratio that's appropriate. Something along the lines of, if you're going to do a 3/4 inches out, then you need to do a 1 inch or so coming in. In this case, I went with a 1.5 and a 1. And you'll note, obviously the system is working and running with a 1.5 inch valve. I have seen a lot of ram pumps, and the clicking can be faster or slower, and that has to do with how you build it and what the amount of water coming into it is and everything else. So you'll also notice that we've braced it. So these things produce a lot of wobble. You can kind of see it moving a little bit there. So I've had to brace it against the rock and put some rocks underneath this pad, and that's holding it in place. You can also see the wobble when you look at the pipe here. So it's mechanical. It is a moving parts and pieces, and that is what's going on there. So yeah, I just wanted to share with you guys how exciting this is for us. Once we have the whole system pumping water, I'll walk you through the entirety of it. I'm so excited to have this built, and we'll catch up with you next time with an update on everything in the system, kind of like the whole system all at once. All right, guys, catch you then.